Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar today about understanding, optimizing your billing at TagoIO. I'm Fabio Rosa, I'm CEO, co-founder of TagoIO, and I'm here today also with Victor, one of our developers that's gonna give you very valuable tips. So this webinar will be very straightforward. We're gonna spend ballpark 35 minutes here. We're gonna present the concepts for everyone related to the new billing system that we are introducing next week, very similar to the one you have today with some improvement. I'm going to show some concepts and also going to talk over the system step by step. That's something that Victor is going to give you during the presentation. So we are recording this presentation, and we are going to also be open for Q&A in a couple of minutes. So that's the agenda. I'm going to be covering about how to do the settings and how to monitor the services that you have at TagoIO. That's extremely important for those who are really running applications that deploy to other customers. I know that people have questions about the concepts, okay? What's the variable, for example? I'm going to be covering this in the concepts. I'm going to be talking about how to allocate resources inside of the profiles. So that's something new that you have at TagoIO that we're very excited to talk about it. And then I will stop there, and Victor will take control and give tips to how to optimize your billing system. At the end, they're gonna show some links related to additional resource, and you're gonna have a space here to answer questions that you may have. Feel free to make questions at any time. And if you cannot reply right away, you're going to reply at the end. Okay, let me start then with the initial screen that show you how to do the setup and what options you have with TagoIO. Okay, so very simple today. We have 3 plans. We have options for services and also add-ons. So when someone subscribes to Tago for free, they receive some options, some services that are already included, but they cannot increase the service. For example, they're gonna receive 100 emails to spend during a month, but they cannot change that. So that's the free plan, okay? The goal here, of course, is talk more about the paying account. Let's talk about start and scale. You need to select one of these accounts. If you go to tago.io/pricing, you can see all the details about the difference between both. High level, the start allows you to add up to 100 devices, 100 dashboards. And if you go to scale, you go to the unlimited version, and also you add additional features. For example, you can have a multiple language at the same time available, just one thing, or SSO and other things. Okay, so you select your plan, then you select the level, moving the bar that I'm gonna show you for the services. The services that you make available are data input, data output, the storage, analysis, that is where you run scripts, message to SMS, emails, push notifications, and also depend on the quantity of the end users. And then you have the add-ons, okay, that are options that you can on top of this. For example, custom domain is one of them. Another one is mobile app, custom domain mobile app, and support plan that we just introduced last month. Let me tell you a little bit about the concepts, okay? A lot of people ask this. So how you measure that? For example, how you measure data input, and what is data input? First, every time you have a device send data to Tago, it means that it is getting into your account. Each variable that you send count as in the metric, okay? So every variable that's sent to by your device to your bucket, or that you post to your bucket. For example, if you press a button there, a form, you're posting data inside of the bucket, that is one variable that you are sending through data input. Okay. For example, if your device is sending temperature and humidity, you're sending two variables. Okay. Every time. Data input is the same thing, but reverse. So if you are sending this variable back to your device, so you are performing like a get command, get from the bucket and send it to your device, you are also using one transaction. And the same metric related to the variable. The only things here that you need to have in mind that's a little bit different is that when you perform analysis, you may also perform get. It means that you may be using your data output. For example, you are storing a lot of data inside, then you have a script that reads 1,000 variables to make a calculation. For example, to run a report or average, doing whatever calculation. So if you do a get to get these 1,000 variables, you are really using these 1,000 variables from your resources. The other one is storage. So that's related to the data buckets, the same principle. The only things here that storage is not measured during 1 month, but the overall life. Okay. And then we have the files. So up to now, the files were free. And now people use a little bit, just a few mega bytes, but can use much more than that. The files will be measured by the size. Then you have the analysis. Analysis will allow you to run script. We measure these by the execution time, okay, the runtime. And we use the granularity per second. For example, if your analysis takes 1.9 seconds to run, we round that for 2 seconds. Okay, so we added these during the month. So you can use that, and you're going to measure through time. You have a certain number of time to use during the month, and you'll be always measuring during that period. That's 1 month that you use to run analysis, and they're going to be reset in the next cycle period. Another one is SMS, the message. It's that simple. We calculate per message that is sent. Emails, the same thing. Push notification, the same idea. And then the run users. So the end users that you have up and running, register in your run application will be counted as a user. Okay, let's talk about how you set up this in your billing. So it's straightforward. You go to your admin, click on the top right, you see my billing option. Then you go to the services. Then you select the plan that you want. You change the plan. For example, I'm going to scale. You select the plan, scale. Then you select the services. Remember, initially, even without paying any additional service, you already have some transactions. For example, you can see here at the zero cost data input, you have the right to run 1 million transactions per month. Again, look for the concept. I'm saying that you can send 1 million variables per month. Okay. If you need to add, you just start to move the bars, okay, to the right and select and see, depending on your application, what's the best setting. Then you have the add-ons. The add-on like custom domain or mobile app are the two that you can select now. We are going to also add this, not sure if it will be available for next week, but we're going to add as well the support plans. Okay, so let's say that you start doing your setup, select the plan, then you are happy, and then later you need to increase or decrease the number of transactions or emails or anything that you select there, what you call the services during this period. Up to now, you could do the upgrade, but you could not do the downgrade. What I'm talking to you here, you see that's slightly different from the current version that you have today. Just reinforcing, I'm showing you the next version that will be available starting next week. So let's give you this example. You didn't add any data storage. So you receive 800,000 register at no additional cost, but you figure out that now that's not enough, you need more. So you're gonna move the bar, and then when you move the bar, you click saying, okay, I'm ready to review my change. And then this screen will pop up. You see your new monthly billing. Okay, so that will be changed here if you accept. You see a description and say, hey, these are the items that will be upgraded from 800 to 1,500,000 registers. That is the cost of the next billing. So I'm gonna be paying $15 a month, but now I will pay $13.05. Why I'm gonna pay only $13.05? Because it's pro rata. Okay, so it's not, I'm not at the beginning of my cycle, or something between. Then you calculate how much you are gonna, how many days you have until the next cycle, and do the pro rata. Then you complete the operation, and the upgrade, you're gonna be done immediately. You'll be charging your credit card, and then you'll be upgraded. Good. So how about downgrading? Okay, let's say that you initially select 10,000 emails per month. That costs $15 a month. And then you figure out that you don't need. So first, you already paid for that, okay? Then what you can do is downgrade for the next cycle, billing cycle. How you do that? You just move the bar, go and try to complete the operation. And before you complete, it's gonna show you what the new monthly billing. The next one was reduced by $15. You see the description, and then you can complete the operation. As you see that for this item, your next billing will be $0. You're not going to charge for that, of course, and you don't pay anything now. Okay. What's interesting is that when you do that, it's not going to be effective right now. You continue having your 10,000 emails to be consumed to the end of your billing cycle. And then after that, immediately, it's going to $0, or in this case, will be going to $0 cost, but you will make available for you 100 emails. If you change ID in the middle, you can go back here, and you're going to see one option. I don't see here, but there is an option here. So yeah, you have a downgrade schedule. And if you want to change the idea, just go there and cancel. Maybe you don't reduce to 100 email. Maybe you cancel that one and schedule another one to 1,000 emails. So this gives you a flexibility for you to do it by yourself. You don't need to ask us to do that, because today you need to open a ticket, and then you have our team work manually. Now you can do this by yourself. Okay, talk about billing. So how you understand your billing. If you go to your billing and select the summary tab, you can see some fields here. The first one on the left that's always available on the billing is the profile. In this case, I have 3 profiles, okay? By the way, with this new billing system, there is no charge per profile. Okay, the profile can be added in your account at no cost. If you have the starter account, you can add up to 3 profiles, no cost. If you have this Scale account, you can add up to 100 profiles. So it's a lot, okay? However, when you add a profile, they come empty. Okay, I'm gonna show you this 1 minute, but basically we don't add any service, any email, transaction, anything. Okay, you're gonna be allocating whatever you have, the resource you have in your account that you are paying inside of your profile. So that's how you read this. You see on the left one, the resources, okay? You see overall, that's what I'm paying, okay? $414. a month. Okay, that is my complete billing. You don't see any discount, anything that is possible that you have as well. And then you have a view of the description. We cut here a little bit. If you have add-ons as well, it's going to show up in the bottom. And then you have an estimation of the cost of each profile. If I have a 3, I can see how much each one is costing to me. Okay, you're going to see that maybe it's not perfect because that's an estimation based on the resources that you allocate. If you don't allocate all the resources among them, this amount here can really not match the total. Other thing is that on the right side, the scale plan is not included. So to have the overall cost here, the $414, $414, you need to add the scale plan plus all the profiles on the right. Okay, so that's good because if you have this scale plan and you have, let's say, 10 customers, you can see the cost for each one very easily. Okay, the only thing that is not shared is this cost here because you don't know how you want to share, right? If you have 10 accounts and you want to share these let's say $199 in 10, of course you have $19 for each one here, but it depends how you want to do that. So that's not included. Okay, so I told you that you change the way we are able to anyone is able to allocate resources. So basically, what you have to do now is allocate the resources for each service. You start with the limit. So let's say that the initial limit that you have for data input is 1 million. Okay, we are not able to see this here, but if you go next week in the billing, you'll be able to see a tooltip here with the current value. So you see that I don't have anything left here. But the total is 1 million. So I have 1 million data input transactions. And then I allocate all of them inside of each resources. So I allocate this number here for data input for this main profile, the same for my sandbox profile, and another one to the customer. Okay. If I sum up all of them, the 3 together, it's going to match. So there is no resource left here. Okay, there is no free resource. I use everything. For the data input, I allocate, but we have some free resource here that I can allocate in other one. I can allocate in the new profile, or I can come in here and press this button. When I press this button here, it's gonna allocate and distribute equally the resources available here to all this profile. Okay, so why you want to make this available? You don't want to have resources available here because now we give you ability to share the resources and allocate individually in any profile. The number that you want is up to you to do that. So these bring a lot of advantage, right? One advantage is that you have the advantage of the volume pricing. Okay, so if you increase this number here of data input, the higher the limit that you have in your account, the lower the price per service. Okay, for example, let's be clear. For example, SMS. If you pay X when you buy 100 SMS, if you buy 1,000 SMS, you pay much less than X, right? Then you can distribute this among all your account. Maybe you create another account, another profile just for a very small customer. You have a very good pricing. So you allocate for them that resource, maybe just 5 SMS, the number is up to you. So you always need to allocate these resources. When you create a new profile, you just click here and create a new profile. In this case, if you have a scale, you can have more than 3. You allocate a new one, and it's going to ask you, do you want to allocate these resources that are available already inside of this one? I say, yes, why not, right? So it's up to you to give you flexibility. But very important, make sure that if you use more than one profile, you need to allocate. Most of our customers, when they are at the beginning, even some mid-sized customers, they have just one profile. So there is nothing to do, right? That's really just when you have more than one profile, because this brings a lot of advantage. Right, so now I'm going to stop here. If you have a question, make sure you use our chat or Q&A, and I'll be take a look at there and see how we can help you. Now I'll turn this to Vitor, so he's going to explain and give you some tips about, in the practical side, how you make your account more, try to optimize your account, avoid some waste, and so on. Go ahead, Vitor.
Hey, Fabio. Hello, everyone. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the tips for you to optimize your account. So I'll be covering here some tips about data retention, filtering data inputs, and how to deal with the changes in the billing for the outscale. So starting with data retention. There is a very cool feature on Tago where you can choose to retain data in any of your buckets for a given amount of time. If you go now to your buckets, you will be able to set these attributes in your bucket for 1 year, 1 month, for a custom threshold of time. And this is very important because data registers usually gets very high through time. So if you do choose to not activate this, you need to deal with this data that will be always increasing your account in a different way. So a different way to deal with this would be analysis, of course. So you can set up a script and customize all this data retention logic for your profile as well. Also very important, if for some reason the default feature from TagoIO do not cover all your needs, so data retention through analysis will allow you to create different ways to retain your data, right? So let's say you do not want to delete all the variables, because data retention in the next phase will be deleting all the variables. So the script will allow you to choose which variables you want to delete, or you can also have, even in the current system, the option to have different time retention for different variables. So this is one of the tips for data retention. Another tip is filtering wanted variables from being added to your buckets. You can do that by using the payload parser. The payload parser is a JavaScript code. You can access it through your devices page. You can also have this in connectors, and you can check tutorials about that and documentation in the links that I will provide you at the end of this webinar. But in the first time that you enable the payload parser, you will be able to see this little code here that I'm showing in the middle. And you do have this ignore vars that is an array. And all you need to do is to fill up this array with string information with the variables that you do not want to add it to your bucket. And the same thing can be done in reverse. So for example, you can set this for only variables that you want to accept in your buckets. You just need to go to the line 14 here and remove this exclamation point. Since this is a JavaScript, you have great freedom to choose what you want to do. The next tip I have is that some widgets that store data to your bucket. One good example of that is the input form. you can actually set it to not store the data. And it's very useful when you have these forms in your dashboard that you actually only use to trigger some analysis, or the way you use it is actually to do some action to your analysis. So you can turn off this slide here to not store the data in your bucket and preventing you to deal with problems with your data storage, your data input, because customers will be using these input forms a lot. So another great tip is to use the metadata on your data. So if you do have control over how you send data to Tago, or you are creating new variables to your devices using analysis, it is good practice today at Tago to use the metadata information to store information related to your variable that you don't actually need to filter using get operations. And I will get a little about this later. And how this works. So you have the structure of Tago where you send variable value, very simple. But you also have this attribute field called metadata. And the metadata is a different JSON, but the difference is that you can actually enter any attribute that you want. So for example, here I enter the message, user, gateway ID, and I can add any other parameter that comes to my mind. For example, I can enter sensor ID here. I can enter message 2, message 3, type. So it's very open for you to use in any way you want. Just keep in mind that there is a limitation of size for metadata. You will not have any problem for, let's say, 20, 50 attributes. You can freely, but if you try to use for a lot of attributes or try to store a lot of information here, you will face the size limit of the metadata, and you will get an error. And when you try to use this information on widgets, the way it works is actually that you need to enable the formula for the fields. All the widgets have this formula option. And this is the syntax you can see here on how to access an information inside the metadata. And you use this siphon symbol with metadata and dot message. And here is an example on one type of variable that I commonly use these methods is when I generating logs for an application. I need to create, for example, a dynamic table and have a lot of columns. And what you would normally do is to create different variables for each one of the columns in your dynamic table. This way you can have only one data input, one data register, and I can have 3 columns and the fourth one with the value here. And last thing about metadata is that when you use it, you need to keep in mind that you cannot filter in get operations. What that means. So if you have an analysis and you want to filter all these variables by the user in the metadata, you cannot do that. So keep that in mind, and you will not have any problem using metadata or getting regret later because you cannot filter. Last thing, I believe, is since we are removing the Outscale from the new billing system, this structure, this logic, we need to move for your analysis. So we are now providing you with the Outscale profile limits snippet that you can install to your account is a very cool script that you only need to create an action for it to work. And the action you will select how often this Outscale will check your account. And once this script you run in your account, it will check all your limits, and if it not notice that you are reaching the limit of any of your resources, it will automatically scale up for you. So this is a very cool feature where you can have much more control over how your account will outscale. And by default, the script is set to outscale when your account resource reaches 95% of the limit. But you can change this freely in the code. Very easy to do. And I believe that was the last one. And keep in mind, we have now the Rep Center with all the community documentation and tickets together. So it's a centralized help center. You can check on there for tutorials. We will release a tutorial about the Outscale script. And we also have video tutorials in the TagoIO/videos. And this video will be there for you to see if you need to check more information about this. So Fabio, do you have anything to add here?
Yeah, and also mistake. I was replying to a question here, but I didn't reply to the community. I replied to only hosts and panelists. I just noticed, but to have a few there, so he's answered the questions. So okay, let's reply live then. Okay, we have some questions. One question, Victor, I'll send this to you. I know that you just explained, but I think it's good to mention. Can I display the metadata in a widget? You are muted, Victor.
Let me go back to the slide here.
Yes, please.
So as I mentioned, all the widgets has this formula option. So when you select which variable you want to show for the widget, you will be prompted with the formula option in the sidebar. You just need to find this information there. And the way you access the metadata, you have the syntax here. So is this siphon symbol with metadata dot message. If, for example, I want to access the message from my metadata here, let's say if I want to access the user, I just replace message for user. So very simple to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and your recommendation, I think, is very important, right? Is not add a lot of data. We have seen, because frankly, didn't have controls for everything, just very big file. Some customers were using huge there. We don't use the metrics, but in the new database that you're going to be releasing soon, that will be limit to much smaller, but still a good practice to use. If you don't need to do search in the database, as Victor said, you can use metadata. I think that's a very good one. Okay. One question here, I just replied there, but I think it's good to mention is, okay, what's the cost for extra run user and notifications? I don't have it here by heart, but for push notifications, I know that's basically the same as the email. So for example, for 1,000 notifications for the user is 250. You're going to be putting this next week. What's very important is that Tago is very serious when you have customers that are with us and they have a certain price, and for some reason you need to add something or control, like in some situation we realize that you have it opened completely and you're ready to close and it starts to billing. So when you have a customer in the transition, really work with the customer to avoid any surprise. Sometimes you really get this a discount, and many times it's really forever, because that's one way to recognize also the customers that are with us since the beginning. Okay, so that's valid for new customers for sure, for those that are adding new functionality. But if you have anything that's, hey, I was not paying that, I really need to review that. So let's work together, no worries. Okay, but these are movements that you had to do. Okay, that's one thing. The other question, very good as well, is can profiles be useful to have a development environment, like a copy of the normal profile, which works in production, so you can make testing without worrying about making mistakes for the users. Perfect. Exactly. That's, as I mentioned, there is one big reason why we're giving this additional profile. So exactly for that, use a sandbox, mess up, and test in that profile. When it's good to go, you deploy. Vitor has a lot of experience for that and does this all the time when you get this in production, right? Because you cannot have, or at least you want to avoid as much as possible any mistake in production. There is another question.
Just on that question, Fabio.
Say that again, Vitor.
About the question of having different profiles, we also are creating a tutorial for exporting applications from a profile to another. I believe it's ready. I just need to make it public so you can make use of it to exporting applications between profiles.
Mm-hmm. There is another question from Jonathan. What is the current push notification limit in start plans? In reality, we don't have this. Okay, we don't have a limit. That's a problem, by the way, right? So of course, we have extremely high. We have a limit for everything, but too high. But I think it's included at least 100 or 1,000 notifications. And of course, I think 100 push notifications. Other question is, do you build ahead? Yes. Okay, in this new system, it will be even more clear. I will have a button there that you can contact us. So that's pretty common. We are not able to send billing monthly to the companies unless there is a certain amount, but we do this for yearly plans or multiple years. So yeah, we bill ahead, or with a credit card, or normally the reason why people want to bill ahead, there are some, but one is because they don't use a credit card, right? They want to do a wire transfer. So we do that. You just contact us at customer@tago.io or any channel. Vitor, there is a question for you, the last one, I believe. JavaScript, TagoIO is JavaScript. Do you see the question there, Vitor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the snippet for outscaling is in JavaScript. We may create this same script in Python, but feel free to ask us on the help.tago.io. We will check if we can make in a different code if needed. But it's a very simple script. I don't see any problem to have it on JavaScript only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is another question, Vitor. You see from Vincent. Can you reply that one? I don't think you have replied about analysis use easily seconds.
So analysis use easily seconds. Any tips on how to speed up analysis scripts? Will running scripts externally help, for example? Okay, so when you run scripts externally, you are not actually charged for analysis. So it's not a problem if you are running externally. And regarding speeding up analysis is very based on how you made the code, how much functions are being weighted in your code. I usually think Tago is very fast when running scripts, but feel free to share your script in the in our community. We'll be glad to help you to finding why your script is not running in the full speed.
Yeah. Vitor, I remember that one customer had a lag at the beginning, and the one reason was because of the package, right? Like set libraries that can take a little bit of time, like press the button and wait half a second was not good for them, but because there was package that was inside of the analysis, so it's needed to run, right? So there are optimization to accelerate this time, right? Not only the total, but mainly the beginning, because sometimes you really want to have a good user experience. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. There is another question from Jonathan for large application where I have many devices, maybe that storage a little bit short. It's possible to use standard bucket to provide dashboards and analysis in TagoIO, such as SQLite. Not today, that's not possible. There is the new product that is Tago Core, that's exactly to do things like that, that you can have your own database, and it's up to you. And then you can store the data there. You take care, you manage, you pay your database. Data is not stored at Tago, but you still can visualize and Tago run. So that's really great. So if you haven't heard about Tago Core, I'm gonna put here, is tagocore.com. That's the new product that is in beta right now. Okay, so that's can be something that's helpful. So we have a lot of customer already testing for different reasons. It's run on the edge, but also runs on cloud. Okay. Okay, that's a very good point, Vitor. Question here. Do we need to get a notice on resource available in case they run out? So the simple question is, first, it's important when you create your account, first, that's a real email. Sometimes customers create a fake email or something, not a fake, but let's say they don't monitor at all. That's bad for several reasons, in my view, right? First, because we send a notification when you get 80%, 90%, 100% of the resources, right? Overall, the account, not the profile. We don't know what's inside the profile. Maybe it's okay to hit 100% of the profiles, right? So first thing, make sure you have a real email that you can receive notification. Second, is important that you pay attention to this notification. And then, as Vitor mentioned, there are scripts that you can do. And frankly, with scripts, you can do anything. Okay, you can receive a notification per profile or per account. You can upgrade and downgrade. So you have a lot of freedom to do that. Vitor gonna make these scripts available, as he mentioned before, so you can use it. And how often you're gonna use? You're gonna check every minute or every hour. Of course, you're running scripts, right? So it's consuming part of your script, but they're very light, I believe, right, Vitor? So it's not heavy, is correct. So you should take advantage of that, okay? But that is a very good point. Okay, any other question? Okay, so will you make this, yes, asking about the record, yes, that will be available today on our website, as Vitor showed before. Can you go back one slide, Vitor? Because that's the slide that will be available on YouTube, and TagoIO/videos will be there later today for sure. Please share with others, with your team. Next week, we'll be deploying the new payment system. Again, when you have current customers and there are some change, we always work with them. Okay, make sure that it will be good, is not to disrupt their business at all. Okay, work together. So if there is no further question, thank you for your participation. Make sure you follow us in our help center now in our community. Follow the topics there and contact us if you have any question. Thank you very much. Have a great day.